for me. Run through the land, you run through my soul. Bring me wisdom and peace. Run through all ages and all of life's stages. You bring me around to find my release.
This is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have back, by popular demand, Tim Baird. And Tim is an author. He had come, before you had been with us, you had book one. What was the title of it?
The Dragon and the Whites.
Okay. The second one is Washington's Dragon Hunter. And the most recent one is book 3, Dragon Liberator.
Mm-hmm.
This is sci-fi fantasy. Okay. So you think it maybe leans a little more towards fantasy?
It's definitely more on the fantasy end of the spectrum, but there are some sci-fi elements to it. So if you like either genre, especially if you like fantasy, then I think you would enjoy the work.
I like how he designs his own cover. We were just talking about that. This guy's got it nailed. I mean, I don't think there's a publishing company around that could top this. He is good. You know, I've seen a lot of books, and they're okay, but how can that not grab your attention? Now tell them where that castle is.
So that is Bancroft Tower in Worcester, just up above WPI. And I went to school there and used to walk up there, and I love seeing the...
You went to WPI?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you had to have had excellent grades to get in there. Right?
I was good enough to trick them on the way in, yes.
Oh, what did you major in?
Mechanical engineering.
How did you go from that to this?
So I'm a mechanical engineer by day, and I do math, science, CAD design, and I use one half of my brain. And then I love doing this because it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So I can do this even while I'm eating lunch at work, and I'm still working, but it feels like I'm just kind of goofing off and having fun. So it's a nice break to be able to write, yet still feel productive.
And you can write at home, like after your little one goes to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Your son is now 4.
Almost 4, yeah.
Almost 4. And the older he gets, is he in preschool yet?
Yeah, he's doing like a daycare kind of preschool thing.
Yeah, okay. The older he gets, maybe the more easier it'll be. Do you ever stay home? Do you play mom, dad, or whatever to take care of him?
No, we take turns, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, because if he sees you, we were just talking, if he sees you, with these books, and he knows you draw them, if he's interested in art right now, grab him.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of kids don't know what they want to do, but if they're showing interest in this, I can see your son as the years go by. You've got the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And he could do some great dragon and swords inside.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really good. So your son out there, listen up, because your dad's very talented. Now, this one we didn't talk about, the second one. What was this one generally about?
So if you have read book 1, The Dragon and the Whites, obviously feel free to listen. If you haven't read it yet, press pause on the YouTube video right here. So Washington Dragon Hunter picks up immediately after the end of The Dragon and the Whites. The dragon has been injured during the battle at the end of the first book, and Liam and his friends spend the first part of this novel kind of recovering from the battle, realizing that it didn't go the way that they really thought it did, and they start to chase the dragon down, and they're hunting it through the woods of Vermont and Massachusetts.
Yeah.
They're trying to find the dragon, and this really kind of brings the part 2 of that original battle together, and through the course of the battle we see the relationship change a little bit between Liam and the dragon.
When did this one come out?
This came out, I think, February 2018, so it was a couple months after I saw you last time.
Okay, right, it was just right after.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the next one. Now this one came out recently.
Just a couple months ago, right before Christmas.
Book 3 of The Dragon of the Whites, Dragon Liberator. Liberator means they must have set him free.
So I don't want to tell you too much because I still want you to read the book and hopefully enjoy it.
Yeah.
But basically what happens, the dragon ends up getting captured at the end of Washington's Dragon Hunter, and at this point the feelings have changed between Liam and the dragon. They're no longer these harsh adversaries. Things have evolved a little bit, and he needs to set his friend free. So Liam and his friends, they once again go after the dragon, and they encounter some other dragons perhaps along the way. The dragon gets free from the confines of where he was, and this wraps the story up and kind of brings some closure to the tale.
Would you say from young adult up, or maybe even junior high up?
So I typically tell people either young adult or 10 plus. There are violent elements of the story. There's sword fighting. There is firearm usage. But there's no, gratuitous swears. There's no romantic elements of it. So my wife is a 5th grade teacher, and she said that it's probably a couple of years above her kids. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times if people ask, I say 10 plus, maybe 6th, 7th grade, late middle school.
I was 10, yeah. So maybe 11, 12.
Yeah.
12.
But I try to stay on the same vein as like a Harry Potter novel, where it's safe enough for younger readers, but still entertaining for older readers who never really grew up.
Is this the fattest one?
Yes. So it originally was going to be a potentially 4-book series, but I ended up thinking that it would be a little better to condense some elements, and it turned into just a very long 3rd book. So the first 2 books are in the 84,000 word range. This one's 123.
That's good.
So it went a little bit longer.
Yeah. Now, I always look for a picture of the author. I always encourage my author, for God's sake, on your next book, put your picture on there. There's a good picture of Tim. You can't see it, but it's right here in the back. And it says, he spends his days lost in the world of medical device design and manufacturing, volunteering with children in several youth robotics programs. He's trying his hardest to avoid growing up, one robot at a time. So tell me about this robotic thing.
So I'm heavily involved in the first robotics program.
Yeah.
I did it as a high schooler when I was in school, and then mentored through college, and let's say the first 7 years of full-time engineering work. But for the past couple of years, as I finished up my grad degree and then my son was born, I took a step back, and now I just volunteer at events with the program. So instead of doing it hardcore for months at a time, I'll do it for 3 days at a time, spread out throughout the year. So
now, you went to WPI. Mm-hmm. This guy is a brain, because from what I know, to get into WPI, do you have to have straight A's, basically? And really have super high SAT?
In high school, I had really good grades, but not the test grades. SAT.
That was awful.
I don't test well on big singular events like that, but
you know how
they
have choices like color in circles, like 1, 2, or 3. As the hours went by,
you started drawing pictures with the dots.
I wanted to. And what I did is I said, when in doubt, do 3. I began, which was foolish. I made it into college, but probably on the skin of my teeth. You probably did great. If you're an engineer, you probably did well in math.
Ironically, I always enjoyed math, but I struggled with it. So there are certain classes, like differential equations and different series, I just couldn't do. And I was scraping by with B's and C's, but...
Do they know over at WPI about your great authoring books?
They do. I've included notes into like the alumni magazine, and they'll put it out there every time I have a new book come out. So
definitely.
They're good about giving press for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the students over there will go for this. I really do. I think it's really cool. Do they have a college bookstore, right? Mm-hmm. Have you got them in there?
I don't know if it is. It's mainly a textbook bookstore and supplies, but we'll see. It's a good avenue to approach them. Yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm. It's a really. Do you ever speak there? Because you honored. I mean, you graduated.
Not at WPI for books. I've spoken regarding robotics stuff there. But.
You're mentoring young people with the robotics. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's rewarding, and now I'm getting excited because my son is getting old enough. In about a year or two, he can start doing the lowest level of the Lego aspect of it. Yeah. So I'm excited for him to be joining a team if he wants to. I don't want to push him, but I hope he does.
The robotics are always Legos, right?
In the early grades, it's Lego-based, and then as it gets up in age, it turns into more of an erector set type setup with the VEX program and FTC, and then in the high school levels, it's metal, wood, Lexan, real motors, everything that you could build a real industrial robot, but at a simpler level that's good for high schoolers.
Amazing. We're talking with Timothy Baird, and he is the author of 3 books now. This is the most recent, Dragon Liberator, Book 3 of The Dragon and the Whites. And Tim, where do you live? Do you live in Holden, right?
I live in Holden, just outside Worcester.
Okay, so now you've appeared at certain places. I'm trying to think. Did I meet you over in Sutton at that book?
At Enchanted Passage. Yep.
They must have some of your books there, right?
Yep. She carries the first 2 books. I just haven't gotten the third one over to her yet.
Also, check down at here at the Upton Town Library. They've got his first book there. Mm-hmm. And which ones are you going to leave today?
I'm going to leave both of them behind. Okay, so if you're here in the Upton area and you want to use the library, these all 3 will now be available for your usage.
Right. A lot of people in Upton probably, when they come in the library, they either don't know or they forget that, look, there's local authors. If you see them on here, Usually, I'd say 99.9% of the authors will donate one of their books over there, and then you get to know them even more. And when you become a fan, you can always buy them. How can they reach you, Tim?
So I'm on Facebook and Twitter. You can find me via my website, www.timbaird.us. And like I said, on Facebook, it's at timbaird.author, and on Twitter, it's at author Tim Baird. And you could also find me on Amazon. I have an author page up there with all my information.
Where are you going to be appearing coming up? I know you're busy, but have you got something scheduled?
So I have a couple small ones scheduled throughout 2020. I'll be at Bosco next month, the big science fiction book event down in Boston.
Great.
I'll be down there, and then I'll be at Plastic City Comic Con in the summer.
Where's that?
In Fitchburg.
Okay.
That's at the Wallace Civic Center, and then I have a couple others starting to be lined up. So.
Did you go to the Rhode Island Authors Expo in December?
No, I was at another event that was here in
You
Massachusetts
would
the same
love
day.
that.
Yeah, I heard it has a really good turnout.
Oh, it's overwhelming. There's just authors wall to wall. Something for everybody. I've met so many authors there. You can't meet all of them because it just isn't time.
Yeah.
And you get exhausted. I talked with one of the authors. I said, boy, this is overwhelming to me. And she said, to me too. So it is they're not ready for this. If you haven't been there yet, but if you ever go, make sure you have a nice big stand-up thing about to get the attention, because you're going to be with a lot of different people. Now, you must have another book cooking up in this head. What have you got?
So what I actually have is a series of short stories that I'm going to put out that are tied into this world. So I wanted to formally close the trilogy.
Yeah.
So it is a 3-book series. But as I was writing, there were several small areas that I either skipped over to save time or to keep the book shorter. But in the back of my mind, I thought, there's a story there.
Yeah.
It's not going to come to life just yet.
Right.
So I have a series of short stories that I've been writing that I'm going to compile together into essentially the 4th book. But it should definitely be read after the 3rd. But then it will tie a bunch of loose ends together.
And it'll be the last one in the basically in the series.
It'll be the 4th book in the series.
4th book. It says trilogy.
I don't want to say last, because then it makes it sound like it's over. But
the trilogy. So you got the 3. How are you going to call the 4th one if trilogy is 3?
So what I'm going to do is I actually have started putting the 3 books together into the Dragon and the White's omnibus.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have all 3 books together in one book, because I know I like to have sometimes, a huge book with all the stories inside.
Yeah.
The second one will be called the Omnibus 2, and it will have all the short stories compiled together in it.
Kind of like you're taking from each one of your original books and putting them into this next one, and the next one after that. When do you think this is going to come out?
So I'm going to be putting the 3-book series together into the Omnibus later this year. I've already started compiling it and making a new cover design for that.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm 4 short stories into a plan 10 to go into that collection, and that will probably be next year by the time I'm done with it.
Now, once you're done with that, what's next? Have you thought about that? A different form of sci-fi? Or?
So I have a purely sci-fi short story that I've started
Hear that, Paul?
bulletizing.
Yeah.
There will be not really any fantasy elements of this, no dragons or anything. I know it'd be weird to veer out of my lane.
Yeah. That's
and then
good, though.
I have another like a space fantasy that I'm going to have after that.
Space fantasy.
So I've queued myself up. I have some organizational works going on in the
Do you
background.
keep like a little list by your bed or like in the car? These ideas come to you because you're way ahead. You already know like the 3 or 4 books ahead of you.
So what I like to do is I have my email open all day at work.
Yeah.
I keep basically a draft email open for each book idea.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if I'm driving into work in the morning and I think of something, when I go into work I'll open up my email and I'll just go add in another bullet or 2 to the list.
I like that.
And then I can go in every once in a while and organize the bullets around to try to make it look like a nice...
Do you mean like, I don't know, I'm not that techie, but if I want to make a list, I go to Word. Is that it?
Oh yeah, I mean you could do it in Word. I just do it in my email, just because then I can access it on my phone.
How do I do? You send an email to yourself? I mean, I'm not techie. What do I do? Make a list and then send it to myself? Or what do I do?
I can show you after if you want. Yeah, you basically like as if you're going to write an email, but then just never send it, and it'll just stay in your draft folder.
Oh, okay. Just press save, right, for draft?
Most of them autosave now, so you don't even have to worry about it.
Well, what model computer do you have? Is it an app? Apple?
It's just Gmail. It's just in the actual email itself.
Okay, all right. Well, you know, I'm seeing more and more of these Gmails popping up. Mine's still Verizon.net, but why is this? Something about Gmail? What am I missing?
Oh, I mean, Google just has a nice platform. It's a really good email, and Google Docs is really great.
Yeah.
You know, if you like doing any kind of Word doc, you could do it in a Google Doc.
Right.
But then it just auto-saves in the background, so you never have to worry.
Saves in the background.
Yep.
If people want to connect with you, maybe to have you come and speak or do a presentation, how can they reach you?
So like we were saying before, the best bet is probably my email. So if you want to email me, it's tbaird, TBAIRD, at worcester.edu. That's my email address I use for writing. And then you can find all my information at my website, timbaird.us.
Tim, how far are you willing to travel if someone is watching it? You're on YouTube. This is all over the world. How far would you travel if somebody said, gee, would you come here? How far would you go?
My reasonable driving distance is kind of like a 2-hour radius.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do a lot of little events like this in, central Connecticut all the way up to Manchester, Concord area.
Yep.
So if you kind of picture that circle.
That's a good area.
That's...
And Rhode Island.
Yep. So I haven't done anything in Rhode Island yet, but I have a couple things I've had my eye on.
If you want to get into some of this, that Rhode Island authors group is enormous, and it's just. I've interviewed. His name is skipping my mind, but the owner of the Stillwater Press, and he's an author too, and I've interviewed him, and he's got quite a good group there. I mean, that's a lot in one group. Those people showing up. Now, Tim had mentioned that you'd been to Tatnuck, or not yet?
I have shopped at Tatnuck for years, back when it was in Worcester in Tatnuck Square.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually been to the Westboro location, so I'd like to reach out to them.
Yeah, because they have that big room in the back. I've spoken there, and I've sent many of my authors there, and it's great. Just make sure you've got a nice, great, big sign or whatever when you go, because people tend to, when they go to the back, they're not looking sometimes in that room. I made sure there was a great big sign. They do pretty well advertising, but I go take it a step further, because I don't want to lose anybody. They're like, well, where is she? Now, I mentioned the Book Lovers Gourmet in Webster, and you hadn't heard of that one.
Nope, I have not been there.
Really, you'd like that. Deb Horan, Book Lovers Gourmet, just the way it sounds, right on the main drag, right Route 16. Easy to get to. And you already know about Enchanted Passage.
Yep.
How did it go that day?
Enchanted Passage is a really fun little area because, as you remember, it's
That's
a house.
That's a dragon out front, too.
Yeah, so they got the big dragon out front, so it's obviously good advertising for me.
Oh, yeah.
But I like it because you go inside, it's nice and cozy in this little room. So if you've never been to Enchanted Passage, I definitely recommend you go.
Yeah, you go it's like a mouse maze.
Yeah.
You keep going and going, and there's something for everybody.
Each room has a different theme, so as you move around, you get a different feel.
And Lisa Shea, you know Lisa.
I've met Lisa before at that event,
She's been on our show many times. She's written 400 books. Amazing. Now, so we are talking about his book 3, Dragon Liberator. Actually, this nice castle was filmed right in Worcester near WPI.
Yep, right up the hill, Bancroft Tower.
I'm sure I've seen it. Is it off of Park Avenue?
So if you're on Park and you head up either Salisbury or the street immediately after it, you just kind of zigzag through the neighborhoods a little bit. And you can't really see it because all the trees are almost high enough to block your sight.
Yeah.
But once you drive up around the corner, it just comes out of nowhere. And it's really fun. It's never open except a couple Sundays in October.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, have you gone in?
But it's a nice place where people go and they walk their dogs and they fly kites and stuff like that.
Do they give you a tour? I see the door.
Yeah, so when you go inside, there's basically a small little room that's got like a fireplace and it's almost like a den.
Yeah.
And then there's a stairwell that spirals up through here. And there's like a big long hallway here. This is an open parapet. And then you could go up the spiral staircase to the tower up above.
What did it used to be?
It was just built by, I believe Salisbury built it. And it was just to have a fun tower at the top of a hill. When you have a lot of money and you own land in a sprawling city that hasn't really developed yet, you build towers up on the hills, and they were supposed to put, I think, one on each of the 7 hills of Worcester.
Really?
And I think they stopped after they built just the one.
Why? This is gorgeous. It looks
I think he ran out of money. It must have cost a fortune to bring all
Talk
this
about
stuff.
Celtic castles. I mean, this in the middle of Worcester. When I think of that area up there, no Salisbury Street. There's the Christian Science Church up there. There's the if you get to the end, Aquarian Society. It's a history place, right on.
It's right up the hill from the Antiquarian Society.
Oh, it's right, straight up that hill.
Yep. So that building that they're renovating right now on Park Ave.
Right.
So it's within probably 1,000 feet.
Have you heard about the cave here in Upton?
No, I have not.
I'm thinking this is right up. We do have a cave. It's still a mystery whether it was made, I don't know, Druids or Indians. We're not sure, but it is definitely there. You can go to the Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
I can just see you coming up with something about what emerges from this cave. You can go in, too.
I'll have to go check it out.
Oh, I think you'd love it.
Well, not today, because it started
It's
snowing in the course of the
out.
interview.
I woke up this morning, I said, yeah, right, we're getting snow. It's snowing. And it's Wednesday, January 8th. Oh, what, 3 months more?
Oh, yeah, it's not over
Sick
yet.
of it. I really
I don't
had
take my snow tires off till April.
it. Now, the next book you said will be out probably the next one. It's going to be an omnibus of stories.
So it'll be a short story collection, basically.
Short story collection. That
Yep.
should be maybe this summer?
So the collection of these 3 stories I'm going to put out later this summer if somebody wants to just have all my works in one book. I'm still actively writing the short stories, so I'm guesstimating 2021 some point is when that will come out.
Talking with Tim Baird, and he is a sci-fi fantasy author. And I want to know, how did you get these ideas? Do they just come to you?
So it all started on a trip to Iceland when I was camping on this island, and I thought it would be great to have this little story about a Viking child
Yeah.
finding a dragon egg.
Yeah.
And I basically kind of wrote it in like a 10-page story, hit save, and didn't touch it for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And then one day I just thought it'd be fun. You know, I must have been in between classes or
Yeah.
something and had nothing to do, so
Yeah.
I started just writing and just kept fleshing it out. And then my son was born, and I didn't touch it for like another 6 months or whatever.
Yeah,
And
you're a little busy then.
yeah, you know, you get distracted
You're
when you
not
have
sleeping too well.
a tiny creature in your house. But no, basically then it just turned into my love of fantasy, dragon lore,
Yeah.
sword fighting, blended those elements together. So if you like, you know, Viking culture, dragons,
Yeah.
or just local things to New England,
Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy my books. I try to set them in real locations so it feels real, just with the fantasy element inserted into it.
You said you went to Iceland, right?
Yep, I did a study abroad program in Iceland in 2002.
We just had Ron Rosenstock on, that photographer,
Mhm.
and he has, this is like been a wild day, all these people connecting. He has photographed in Iceland. And it looks, how did you end up in Iceland?
So we had at WPI the ability to go do the IQP, which is sort of a social program project that you do
Yeah.
off campus. And a couple of my friends and I figured out this little plan that we could go do. We got approval by it, you know, from our advisor, and we just went. And it was basically because we were allowed to go and kind of do whatever we wanted as long as we had a well-developed plan.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a project center there yet. They've actually since made a project center in Reykjavik,
Yeah.
so it's kind of neat to know that maybe we helped blaze the trail a little bit.
Yeah.
But I loved it over there. I fell in love with the country right away.
You
and-
like it?
Yep.
Don't tell me you're going to move there. It's a little cold.
I wouldn't want to move there full time. I love New England too much, but I definitely want to go back and vacation.
You know, you're into robotics, and I'm trying to combine all this. You could design, your own castle, I'm sure,
Maybe someday.
and also your dragon.
We'll see. I'll have to start saving up.
I bet. No, with the Legos.
Oh, with the Legos, yeah, you
Legos.
can definitely make a Lego dragon.
Yeah, you can make a Lego dragon. You could do this. You could tie it in when you're mentoring the kids, right? How old are the kids that you mentor for the robotics?
I typically focus on the high school programs right now, but in a couple years when my son starts up, I'll be doing the Lego programming again with the elementary school kids.
Okay, I'm thinking with the older kids, whatever. You bring in your book. You say, here are my muses. Now, let's see if we can create a dragon and the castle, right? Do you think they could?
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Kids are
tie
smart.
in. You're very talented, so I'm trying to tie in everything here. I can see building a nice castle. Now, I don't know that the sword, right?
Yeah, probably not in like a school campus nowadays,
No, but
a castle would be more
Yeah.
likely.
yeah, I mean, how many stones did it take to make and how long does it take you to draw that's magnificent. How long does it take to put it together?
So what I do with this is I rough out what I want for my design, and then I work with a woman who does this full time, and she actually makes it look good.
Now, is she the one who edits it, or do you edit it?
I proofread it myself, and then I've had 3 different editors. I've had a different editor for every book.
Wow, that's interesting.
This last one, it's actually a husband and wife duo. She does the cover design, and he does the editing.
Okay. I thought that you did that one. I thought you all did all.
So I took the photograph for this one. So that's my photo of Bancroft Tower in Worcester with my sword stuck in the ground.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find a dragon in the sky that day, so it was really hard to get it to pose just the way I wanted. So that is photoshopped in there.
And this one you did all by you did yourself? Right?
No, she did it as well.
She did that as well. It looks like a cave.
Yeah, so that is supposed to be the old trade tunnel that goes under the acre in Clinton. That then spans the reservoir.
Yeah.
Well, not the reservoir, it spans the Nashua Valley right in front of the reservoir dam. But that is supposed to basically be the train tunnel passing through the side of the hill. And the dragon and Liam, they have their big encounter at the end of this book down in that tunnel.
I love this. We've been talking with Tim Baird, and we got to sign off. But Tim, one more time, how can they reach you? If you want to find out about his books more, if you want to maybe have him come and speak, and book sign.
Yep, so I most actively publish thoughts and muses on Facebook. So if you look me up on Facebook as Tim Baird, I'm also on Twitter as well. And then you can find all that information on my website on timbaird.us.
Okay, so the second book in the trilogy, Washington's Dragon Hunter and Dragon Liberator, the third one. They look good, and they're going to be downstairs in the Upton Town Library. And he's going to be, you'll see his interview on YouTube or locally if you're getting it over here. You're going to be all over the world. I have a friend in Japan who's watching these.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
We get hits from everywhere. The programmer on our show, producer, he says, we just got like 300 hits or so. So you're getting around.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's not just locally. Thank you. Of course, we're going to have him back. You're going to let me know when the next things come out.
Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for having me,
next time
Jen.
I'll be my guest.
Thank you.